the government should be involved. When farmers go, they're not able to go to the farm because of security, or if they're able to do that, they cannot transport because of security. All these goods go to waste. There's really nothing we can do about that. So the government needs to act proactively in specific things, not just a bogus policy. That's number one.
Yeah.
That's number one. Then secondly, I think the government also needs to work on the issue of consumer protection. I think Nigeria is the only country that I know that once something goes up, it will never come down. Like, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in America. I mean, there are times where things will go up because of maybe issues of
security in the Southwest, because we have a lot of these invaders coming in, using their cows to eat a lot of the farms, and then also setting up agricultural institutions where we can use our youth population to train in terms of agriculture. There are so many youths that are not employed. We could make use, I traveled to Papua New Guinea at some stage, and I saw this massive agricultural institution where students that maybe have left school, that they try and encourage them to go into agriculture. And whatever they grow in that institution, they actually sell it. So maybe the government could look into something like that. But I think the security is a very, very important issue. They need to try and curb the, invasion of these cattle people that go in, eat the farms, eat the produce of the farms, and then farmers are not able to go into their farms to do their farming. Also, what's happening with intertrading within Africa? Why do we have to rely so much on these European companies? Why are we not producing our own fertilizers? If we intertrade, we shouldn't have any. We have beautiful land. We should be able to produce. I mean, I even believe that even the world economy is based on the resources from Africa. So I don't think we should be having problems in terms of food. With that, I use the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me take at Prince G at P Ofubu. You have the mic. Please go ahead.
To quickly put it straight this way. Tell me, in part of Nigeria, if we lack any form of mineral resources, is there any mineral resources we lack? None. If you talk about the northern side, you want to tell me we don't have vast lands? We have. The likes of Benue you are talking of, we are talking about, we have a lot of productive areas in Benue that can give us what we want. Fertilizers, whether locally or whatever we need, we have everything. Everything that God has blessed us, good weather, everything we have, Mr. Shehu. The problem we have that is destroying our nation, that we are talking about this hunger strike looming or whatever, it is religion, tribalism, ethnicity, personal greediness of what they can eat from the continuous cake that is affecting us. And I will tell you this simple and clear. With the way it's going, there is no looming crisis because the poor man will never, ever revolt in Nigeria. It is not possible. And there can never be a prosperous revolution of protest because once you are coming out for any form of protest for your right, one tribe or the other will counter you and will shut you down. So Nigeria is not united for one common cause and one common goal. We have everything, but we lack everything that has to do with leadership. And the people in this space, majority of us, at the end of the day, we are all fighting for our personal belly. Once it gets to us, the rest can go and die. So my brother, the looming crisis will never come because Nigerian citizens can never fight. They can never fight. They cannot fight. Yeah. So the summary is that we are meant to continuously complain and talk. We will never get solution. 600 years hunger strike for Nigeria will continue. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Prince. Yeah. Victor Abisoye quickly at Olu Shegini. Please go ahead. 30 seconds if you can go straight to the point.
Okay, so thank you, Shehu. I just want to say that at what point are we going to stop this chest beating that we do in Africa, especially in Nigeria. When are we going to accept that we are big for nothing? We don't have the guns, neither do we have the food or the technology to make the food. When are we going to be humble, accept this so that we can change our mindset and now retool and do what we need to do? We do not know how to grow foods. We do not know how to build guns. Without those two things, you can't have a prosperous nation. When are we going to accept that?
All right.
Well,
thank you so much, Victor.
Let's
Appreciate
continue boasting. Let's continue boasting.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Malam Batisad at Folabi on Twitter. You have the floor now. 30 seconds, please.
Yes, thank you very much, and good day, everyone. I'm not going to waste a lot of your time. So Nigerians, I don't know what our problem is. We like to complicate things that easily be, that should easily come to us. Are we speaking all this big grammar? When somebody came in and increased fuel price by 300 to over 200%. There's no stable electricity, and you don't expect a crisis to come in. I mean, we know what we experienced just before Buhari handed over. We thought that we're transiting into a better life. Only for us to see what we are seeing. So let me tell you quick. If this government wants to do something that will work for Nigerians, they should shamefully dial back on their subsidy removal and this completely nonsense that they have made of our naira by saying they want to float naira. Think about it. These are the two major problems. These are the lowest hanging fruits. Yes, I know we need to mechanize. I know we need to do better. I know we need to try and handle security. But the problem that we have at this moment is the fact that logistics costs are killing all these people. I've seen, this is not even a joke. This is what these guys are going through. It costs them an arm and a leg to move their products from wherever they are. And you have a government that will just do this thing. And then you have a government that are buying, 160 million car for each senator. First lady is buying 1.5 billion vehicles. I want us to have we are wondering what is wrong with our economy. We are talking about cost of governance. There's nothing to show that this government is even hearing or even knows what time is it, in this country. So the problem we have is that there's a present problem, and there's also hopelessness, because when you want to bring in people to help you, foreign direct investment and all of these people, they will look at what plans do you have?
All right.
Do you have integrity?
Yeah.
Can we work with you? There's nothing like that. So we just need to tell ourselves the truth. Tell back on all these rubbish policies, and let's go back to the drawing board.
Let me quickly bring in African nationalists at African National 2. 30 seconds, please. Your intervention, straight to the point.
All right. Thank you very much. I just want you guys to know that there are two kinds of poverty, right? You have poverty due to farming. In farming, food is not available, so everybody is poor, right? There is also poverty due to economic manipulation. In economic manipulation, there is enough food in circulation. The problem there is that people cannot afford those food because of what? Economic manipulation triggering inflation. And for the Nigerian own case, the hunger we are facing, we're not facing hunger because foods are not available. We are facing hunger because of increased inflation. People can no longer afford to buy those food anymore. And where did this inflation come from? Economic manipulation from what? Fuel subsidy removal. Fuel subsidy is a very, very powerful economic tool that controls inflation. The moment you decide to tamper with fuel subsidy by moving it, you trigger inflation in the country, and you cause what I call artificial poverty. What we see here as artificial poverty is a poverty that can be reversed if the government decides to what? Bring back fuel subsidy to crash the price of fuel. And this particular crisis has led to what? Insecurity. And then somebody said that no, we have to tackle insecurity to control food hunger. No, that's not how it works. When there's economic inflation in the country, okay, it affects the masses, okay, and people begin to figure out means of survival, and people now go into banditry. So in this economic crisis that is leading to what? Insecurity in Nigeria. To tackle insecurity, you must We bring back the economy back to normal first. That's the first thing. If the economy is not normal, insecurity will continue to rise. And also, when it comes to production, people have said that the reason why we cannot afford fresh subsidy because we are not producing. I always tell people who are supposed to produce in Nigeria. It's not the masses. Okay. Now, if the masses are not suffering from inflation, they cannot afford to even run business. How will they produce? So, two problems we are facing right in Nigeria is reduced production and insecurity. All this is because of what? Economic manipulation. To solve the Nigerian crisis, we need to bring back fresh subsidy. There is no other way. Without fresh subsidy, our economy will continue. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Before I get to allow the speakers to give us their final thought, let me take a few reactions. I'll go to Instagram first. Mayegun 6983 on Instagram says, in the beginning of last administration, we're producing 1 million MT. I don't know what. If Tinubu administration can wake into more, okay, I think I will find that. We have to focus, he went further to say, we have to focus on these farms, phytosanitary, processing, packaging, marketing. Let me take one more comment from Instagram. And this is one is coming from Mayogu himself. He says, the government isn't doing much focus on irrigation system using renewable energy all year round. The value chain is poor. All right. If I go to YouTube, Olusegun Ogun says, I think the lack of strong business relationships / poor travel infrastructure amongst the African country has put the continent on the suffering end each time there are conflicts in other continents. Yemi Oshilalu says on YouTube, until we fully or semi-mechanize our farm production, I believe we will not be able to produce for our consumption, not to talk of exporting. The crude and outdated system is one of our major problems. And I'm saying some comments also. I'm quite interested in what Donald Jeans at Trip Darling Q on Twitter says. He said, in most countries, natural resources are managed by the government. In a corrupt country with loss of oil, you don't end up with a rich country. You end up with a rich minister of energy's brother-in-law. Also, most Nigerians, middlemen within farming in bracket, are highly greedy with prices. Let me allow our speakers to give us their final thought, and I'll begin with Mr. Rotimi Olawale. Where do we go from here? As your own final thought on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I align with some of the comments from Instagram that you have read. Regional integration is very important, as someone had said, or someone mentioned. You know, from going forward, we need to integrate regionally. We cannot be talking food security or development on the continent. We have the AFCTA, for example, but I always say we cannot have economic integration without free movement of people. As a Nigerian, I still have to get a visa to so many African countries. It doesn't make sense, even within the framework of AFCTA. A few weeks ago, a gentleman, a friend of mine from Rwanda, was going to Ethiopia. Rwanda and Ethiopia, they are within East Africa, but he still needed visa as a Rwandan to fly to Ethiopia. It doesn't make sense. And we're talking about regional integration. We're talking about economic integration across the region. It is not possible. Why do I have to get a visa to go to Egypt as a Nigerian? It doesn't make sense. You see, so regional integration is key first to what we're talking about. Also, infrastructural development is very essential. We cannot downplay it. Yeah, people are talking about subsidy, but even if the subsidy is back, I mean, with the poor infrastructure, we'll still go back to the same stories. You know, we have roads that are not good, and we have trucks that have to move on this road. These trucks are falling off the road. Insurance are denying them even insurance because the situation is too complicated. So we need a lot of infrastructural development. Roads needs to be made, rails need to come in place, logistics needs to come cheaper, because without logistics, the produce are going to remain in the farms forever. You see what I'm saying? I visited a community in somewhere in North Central, I won't mention the state, and this community has been disconnected from the market. Why? Because a small bridge fell off. And this bridge has been like that for many years. So farmers have to leave their produce, they eat what they can eat, and they leave the rest. and we're expecting the country to be food secured. It's never going to happen. Also, of course, mechanization is extremely key. I do not believe that, just like one of the commentators said in the Instagram comment, I do not believe that there's a future in this celebration of smallholder farmers. They are not resilient. I'm not saying we should wipe them, but first we can reorganize them into supply chain. Multinationals or big companies can organize them in different outgrower projects, and build their resilience, build their social protection, etc. We need to go into mechanized farming. For example, when you go and buy cassava as a cassava processor, particularly now during the dry season, it takes up to a whole day to harvest a small plot of land, of cassava, because the land is so dry. How long are you going to wait to process 10 tons or 50 tons of harvest to get 50 tons? It's difficult.
Yeah, I'm going to put you right on the spot, Mr. Olawale. And my question will be, this government of Bola Tinubu, do you see them as a serious government in changing the narrative or fixing the problems? Do you see them serious?
Yeah. It's difficult to say because this is less than 6 months of government. So so far the plans are there. So I can only judge whether they are serious or not after the budget. They start implementing their own budget, which starts from next year. So I think it's too early to say whether the government is serious or not. So far, the president.
Yeah, if they took the decision on declaring state of emergency on food security, whether or not there have been practical, if they took a decision of declaring a state of emergency on food security in Nigeria, that is the step a lot of people thought that was in the right direction. But are there policy, are there movement, are there actions that are being made in furthering that conversation? But if they want to convince you as a farmer, as a player in this sector, what do you think the Tinubu government can do today to be able to hold the very devastating hand of food insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, two things I would say. First is investment in security is extremely important. I know a lot of people, colleagues in the industry, have closed down their factories, sold their factories, closed their farms because of security issues. So I think if the government wants to demonstrate to me right now as a player in the industry that they are serious, first, the issue of farm security must be taken very seriously. People need to have the liberty, rest of mind to go to their farms and factories without pressure. For me, that's really important. Number two, the government needs to work with private sector in the industry. You cannot continue to chunk out loans. We have seen many of these loans. We have seen the one for the rice in the last administration. We have seen many news about how these loans have failed. Where are the farmers who have gotten this loan? Where are they? Some of them say the farms have been flooded. Now we have to import 2.1 metric tons of rice, million metric tons of rice. So you need to work with private sector. You can't be working with farmers who don't have records, who don't do financials, who are just farming for the sake of farming or because their families have been farming for many decades and expect that you want to get any results. Now you need to work with private sector. The government needs to take deliberate step in working with private sector to ensure that these guys are able to invest heavily. We have a lot of multinationals working in this country. JR Farms is a multinational country. We work in Zambia and Rwanda. Multinational companies move capital all over the place. These are guys who can influence farmers and make significant decisions in the value chain. You have the likes of Nestle and other big companies who can make significant change very quickly. The government needs to gather these private sector partners on board and make decisions. Lastly, I would say I'm looking forward to a roadmap in terms of agriculture from this government. I'm yet to see. So the government, we need a roadmap because even when private global partners are coming to work with you, they want to see the thinking of the government. Right. So the government will have a cluster of minds who will develop a roadmap in terms of food security containing quick wins, containing medium-term goals and the long-term goals that are going to be implemented in terms of food systems in this country. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let me ask Dr. Dipo Awojide to give us his final closing remark. Like I asked Mr. Lawale, where do we go from here? From your own point of view, can even Nigeria play a major role on the African continent? Because this is not only a Nigerian problem, it's also a continent problem. What can the president of the day do immediately?
Thank you so much. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. Yeah, so I think, Rotimi has already highlighted all of the key points that I wanted to discuss. The first thing is, stopping the conflict. So insecurity, across Nigeria, we need to ensure that our farmers are confident enough to go to the farms to plant and to go to their farms to actually harvest, whenever they want to. The second point is, as I noted earlier, helping rural and commercial farmers, mechanization, loans, grants, all of these things are very, very important. Connecting our farmers to the markets, both local markets, international markets, subnational markets across the African continent, and of course, across the world. Again, yam, mango, cashew nuts, beans, banana, all of these things come from some African countries into the UK. Nigeria, we have what it takes, to actually supply, some other African countries, and of course, some other European countries as well. Lastly, infrastructure. Very, very important. Road infrastructure, agricultural related infrastructure, to make it easier to actually produce, to make it easier to transport the raw materials from the farms to the factories and to the shores, where they can actually be exported, to other countries. All of these things actually have to be done. It's good that the government has actually declared a state of emergency on food security, but now we need to see concrete steps to ensuring that, these solutions, clear solutions that will provide tangible results, are implemented. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you so very much. Let me give the final shot to Mr. Bulama Bukati. I mean, I'm seeing what is happening within the Black Sea humanitarian corridor to ensure the provision of grain and agricultural export to Africa. And I see what exactly the crisis is because of your interest as a global affairs analyst. Whereas Russia is intensifying the food crisis and threatening those African countries worst affected by food insecurity through its overt aggression. What we see physically on Ukraine is on one hand, but this overt aggression in the Black Sea and complete refusal to consider the needs of African countries who have called for restoration of the BSGI. Is Putin a bad boy? Is he playing a bad boy role and causing a more devastating blow on the already devastating situation of food insecurity, Mr. Bukati?
Look, Sean, if there is a bad boy, the bad boy are African leaders. Putin and his power competition with the West has been on for a very long time. And I wouldn't sit here to judge the arguments from both sides. But the person that brought us to this situation of relying on other countries are our useless, incompetent, corrupt leaders in Africa. And it is what we need to tackle. For example, we know, as I articulated earlier in this conversation, that the Russian-Ukraine situation did play a role in our food insecurity and inflation in Nigeria. But as other panelists and commentators have mentioned, the major thing that has happened over the past 6 months are the policies of the current administration. When this president came in, his first two announcements were withdrawal of fuel subsidy and regularization of the Naira, which tanked the Naira and our economy. And we saw how exponentially prices of foodstuff as well as everything in Nigeria skyrocketed because of the policies of the administration. Sean, I have lived in the UK for 5 or 6 years now, and I am amazed at the amount of research and public consultation that goes into each and every government policy in the UK before it gets implemented. They look at the economic and social impact of each and every policy. But in Nigeria, your president, on the day he is inaugurated, makes an announcement that changes the lives of each and every Nigerian for the worse, and no consultation, no research, no survey, nothing was done to measure the economic impact of the two policies that were announced by the administration. And of course, the government keeps saying, we share your pain, we know what you are going through, We have policies to cushion the effect of what has happened or what we have done, but we have not seen anything on the ground right now. And Shaun, if your people are poor, there is no way your economy will grow, because it is the purchasing power of the people in the country that grows the economy, that contribute taxes to the government, and which is then used to build infrastructure and other stuff in the country. And so what I would say is that the first thing Nigeria needs to do is to put our house in order in terms of the policies announced by this administration. And these policies, if they want to maintain them, then they have got to introduce other policies that will mitigate the impact and give Nigeria the growth that it needs. That's the first thing. The second thing, Shaun, was not introduced by this government, but when they campaigned, they told us that they have medicine to our insecurity. And we know that insecurity continues to deteriorate in rural Nigeria. And as long as farmers cannot go to their farms in peace, as long as they cannot plant and harvest their crops in peace, then we will continue to see food insecurity across the country. Of course, we do need to be the leaders in the intercontinental trade scene in Africa. But we cannot do that without first putting our house in order. So security is important. And finally, number 3, we need to focus on infrastructure, especially power. We cannot go anywhere as a country when we are generating, as a country of 200 million people, generating power, electricity that is less than one single city in Europe. We cannot get anywhere unless we can produce, process, and store agricultural products. We are not getting anywhere. And so some of these issues have been exacerbated exponentially by the current government policies. And they need to show us what they have, that they are telling us they have policies to mitigate the impact or to grow our economy. Those that have not been introduced by them, we need to see action in the area of insecurity and in the area of lack of infrastructure. And unless we see that, we will continue to rely on other countries, and we cannot control what will happen in the international scene, just like we cannot control what is happening in Ukraine today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Bukati. Just like when you were mentioning the issue of power, there's Linus E on YouTube who says the 2 things Nigeria need is light and security. The rest thing, it will be okay. I'm tempted, very much tempted. I like to close this, but I'm tempted to bring someone quickly. If you can do it in 60 seconds, I can see his hand up on space. Farmer Akin Alabi at Akinwale_CFI. If you have 1 minute for your intervention so that we can close the podcast tonight.
All right, thank you very much. So quickly, I would say that state government has to be intentional about food security. So let's trace it back a little bit. Every farm today across the country is in a particular community. From a community, you have an LGA. In an LGA, that's a local government to a state government, down to the federal. When state government begin to have that intentional mind, tackle food insecurity, then we can have development, growth, infrastructure, and also private investment to help us grow our food system today in Nigeria. That's just what I want to say. The government has to be intentional about food security. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. From one of the things that caught my eyes earlier in the week, then in fact a very topical political issue that I wanted to engage on, but I thought this is very important. It might not be political, but it has a very strong implication on our politics. And I thought that, look, this kind of issue, sometimes we need to bring it up because it affects all of us. And we need to be able to speak up about some of these matter. In fact, next weekend on this podcast, I have a very special conversation, a very special one-on-one that all of you will like, and you will thank me for it when we bring it on for you. It's special. You need to look out for it. We'll bring it on for you. But there you have it, everyone. I was angered by what is happening with the Russian and Ukraine war, and how much of a blow Russia is doing with some of the impacts their action is making on food insecurity across the globe, especially as this affects us, Africa and in Nigeria. Doing further research, I saw how impactful this is also is on the role that our leaders in Africa, in Nigeria, will be playing at COP28. When they go there, what should they be talking about? In the London Summit on Food Security, what should they be looking at? So that's why we brought this conversation. But government needs to stop playing lip service and start making deliberate move towards solving the raging food crisis through agriculture. African leaders must sit on the table with other global leaders with strategies on how to solve problems rather than begging for aid. Nigeria relies on 10 billion US dollars of imports to meet its food and agricultural production shortfalls, mostly wheat, rice, poultry, fish, food services, and consumer-oriented foods. Europe, Asia, the United States, South America, and South Africa are major sources for agricultural import. Well, the global crisis, like the Russia-Ukraine war, will continue to have a huge effect on Africa if the continent continues to depend on the rest of the world for every little thing. Regional integration, investment in security, infrastructure development, and other solutions have also been proffered as a way to fight hunger to its knees. A hungry man is not a free man, they say, and this we must bear in mind. Thank you all for being part of this important conversation. And that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching this podcast. I'm Sean Kimbale. Bye-bye, everyone.
Of Mike on Podcast with Shayon Okimbaloi. Mike on Podcast for the independent